Some gophers. Come on, buddy. I had big plans for today to saddle all of the horses finally, but when I got to the barn, we were having some crazy windstorms. It is pretty frustrating because I had really been looking forward to it while I was working all day long. Naturally, Skeletor was ready for his evening scratches. He has been doing really well out in the turnout 24/7. It really seems to be calming his mind, and he is getting into a routine. With it being so windy outside, I haven't really decided what I'm gonna do today besides chores. I have a few stalls to clean, and I think I'm gonna clean out some of the water tanks. I also got a fancy new chopper that I am gonna test out on the hay. I'm hoping that it makes it into small enough pieces that I can just feed Frisco and Nigel regular hay. Frisco Bill is still shedding quite a bit. Frisco is really good at just shaking out all of the hay, and he leaves these thick stems behind. I just end up taking them out, and I usually give them to Prim for an extra snack. The leaves have a lot more protein, and that is really what Frisco needs anyway. After the extra snack and a few scratches, I am going to get back to feeding Frisco Bill and Nigel the rest of their afternoon mash. I usually make stuff in the morning and at night. These two old boys can't eat it all at once, so I end up giving them little meals throughout the day. Frisco is always happy to get more snacks. I have been noticing that Nigel has been turning his nose up at some of the mash, so I'm having to give him fresh stuff every single time I come. It's not a big deal because I can just give his leftovers to Frisco. He'll pretty much eat anything. I recently put a giant salt block in Nigel's tub, and I think that's why he doesn't like the taste. This guy is starting to look better now that some of his winter hair is gone, but I've still got a long way to go. Huckleberry is such a weirdo. He will eat any kind of horse food. The old boys get a mash of beet pulp and alfalfa pellets. Both of them need to be soaked until they are basically a paste. I know that there are a lot of people that feed these dry or just moisten them, but I have seen too many horses choke on pellets, so they need to be completely broken down before I'll ever feed them to a horse. Huckleberry really loves the flaxseed oil that gets left in the feed scoop. When I soak these alfalfa pellets, they get about 2 times as much water. The beet pulp pellets get super saturated, so there's actually standing water on top of them when they're done soaking. It would be really nice if this hay chopper works, and then I wouldn't have to soak so much food for these guys. It is a little bit easier now that it's nicer outside, but in the winter it is a huge pain in the butt. Nigel is a little bit of a sloppy eater. This time of year, the water tanks need to get cleaned pretty frequently. Unlike in the winter, these tanks can really grow a lot of algae because of the warmer weather. So instead of filling them up every single day, I just fill them up to the top and then let the horses drink them down. As soon as they're empty enough for me to dump out, then I'll give them a good scrub. This algae can get a little bit on the slimy side. Here is a top secret trick that I do to get it a little bit more abrasive to scrub out all of the gunk that's in there. One little sprinkle of dirt, and that adds just a little bit of friction to get all of the slime out of here. This water is not city water or treated, so it just comes straight out of the ground. Nigel's gets extra gross because he likes to stick his little feet in the water sometimes. I have been trying to brush him every other day, and I was hoping to catch him up today. But as soon as he saw that I was coming to get him, he started prancing around. A lot of you guys have asked if I can see a difference from when we started using the shaky plate, and I can definitely tell that he is a little bit extra sassy. He has always had a pretty springy gait, but here lately he seems to be extra bouncy. I'll just catch him tomorrow and get back to some chores. This water tank I've repaired a few different times, but it's looking like I may finally have to get a replacement for Nigel. He has also been getting just the alfalfa leaves. There's a few stems that get mixed in, but he is also really good about separating them. I am also going to scrub out Frisco and Prim's water and refill it before I get going with the new chopper. It looks really sunshiny out today, but it's actually quite chilly. In a few days, it's going to be 70 degrees, so I'm hoping to saddle all the horses and give them another bath, including Miss Scarlet. I did have a little bit of a scare with her the other day. She was colicking from the weather change, I think. So I've been keeping a close eye on all of her poop piles, but she seems to be doing a lot better now. I do have a few stalls to clean and such, but I'm going to save that until the end of the day. I am pretty excited to test this bad boy out and see if it's going to work like I'm hoping. Did see a few reviews online of people using this to chop up hay for senior horses. These are around $200 new, and I got one open box off of eBay. I think it was like $140. So with the wind, I'm just going to bring it into the barn and test it out.
Ellie.
The box claims that this is quick and easy to put together with no tools, so we are going to find out how long it takes me. Seems like there are only a few pieces, so I probably won't even need these directions. The box definitely seemed to be telling the truth because it only took me about 5 minutes to put this thing together. It's pretty neat. It has a little weed whacker string on the inside. It doesn't have any blades. It is a little bit weird that the plug is so short, so I'm going to have to get an extension cord and remove this little safety deal. I was hoping that it would fit right on top of this metal trash can, but it didn't quite line up perfectly. I am guessing that this is going to make a fair amount of dust when it chops up the hay. My hay isn't very dusty, but I'm guessing when it gets chopped up, there will be quite a few particles floating around. Since I didn't read the directions, I did have a little bit of trouble figuring out how to turn it on. And boy, did Huckleberry get excited when I did. The alfalfa that the old boys get is pretty stemmy, but it also does have a lot of really nice leaves on it. I set aside the amount of hay that Frisco and Nigel need for the evening, so hopefully this will chop it up and I can feed it tonight. It looks like it's doing what it's supposed to. Huckleberry seems a little bit suspicious of it. And holy cow, it is making a ton of dust. I did have on eye protection, but I'm thinking now after looking at the video, it would have been a good idea for me to put on a mask. And I saw some other people using it online. They had like a special bag that you can buy, but the bag was like $50 and I didn't want to buy it. After seeing the amount of dust that it's making, I think that it's probably worth the investment if I'm going to be using this long term. I also saw some people got a special size trash can that it sits on top of that might work better for me. I have maybe put about 5 to 10 pounds through this and it seems like it's starting to get clogged. I don't feel like I've been stuffing it in. I've just been putting little clumps in at a time. Whoops. It seems like all of the really stemmy pieces are getting stuck on the edge and kind of blocking the little strings from doing their jobs. I am just about done, so I'm going to give you guys a look inside the machine. Seems like it just kind of has the little weed whacker strings going around and chopping up the hay. It looks like Huckleberry definitely wanted some fresh air. I had some pretty high hopes for this thing, but it looks like there is a bunch of really thick stemmy hay that didn't get chopped up small enough. It actually feels kind of pokey. That might have to do with the fact that the stems are pretty thick to begin with. If I didn't know this was alfalfa before I ground it up, I don't know that I would be able to tell the difference between this and grass hay because it did change in color quite a bit. There is also a ton of dust whenever I touch it. I don't think I'm going to be able to feed this straight to the horses. I think I'll have to water it down. I am going to do a few taste tests with Frisco, Bill, and Nigel just to see if they'll eat it dry.
Oh, Nigel! Look at here.
Nigel just had a little bit of a snack. I don't know that he's going to want to come over and test this out. Pretty much every time I give him a snack, he settles in for a tiny little nap. Frisco Bill will eat food anytime I give it to him, so I'm going to fill him up a little dish as well. As I'm feeling this hay more, I am not sure that this is going to work for Frisco and Nigel. These pieces are still pretty big and I can see these definitely getting stuck in little balls in their throat. Since both of these old boys are missing teeth, it is really easy for the hay to form into little balls called quids. And those quids can get stuck in their esophagus if they try and swallow them.
Frisco Bill. Come on, old boy. Come on, pony. Come on.
Frisco is the perfect horse to taste test this. He is not very picky, so if he won't eat it, I know Nigel definitely won't. He was pretty quick to take a giant bite out of it. I can tell that he is not quite sure about it though. Definitely seems like it is a bit too dry for him to be eating. It seems like he is not going to want to finish it. Most of the other horses are still getting straight alfalfa, so it's pretty easy just to pick off the leaves for Frisco and Nigel. I am going to wet this down a little bit and see if it's maybe more palatable. This dust is just out of control. Even if the stems were finely chopped, I think this dust would be a real problem for feeding it long term to these horses. If I'm going to have to wet it down and carry big buckets of water around, I might as well just feed them the pellets. As you can see, this still can clump up in quite a big ball. Frisco Bill does have enough teeth with chewing surfaces left that he could probably eat this fine, but Nigel definitely can't. I had thought about running this through the chopper twice, but I don't know that that's going to make a big difference. Probably the only thing that would happen is more dust. This is definitely way dustier than I had imagined. There's also quite a bit that didn't get chopped up, and just after one use, the strings from the little chopper are probably an inch shorter. Seems like the strings will have to be changed out quite frequently if I want to use this every single day. I'm kind of bummed that it didn't work a lot better. Just to give you guys an idea of how much it costs to feed one horse this hay. This alfalfa costs about 8 cents a pound, so it cost me about $1.30 to feed each of these horses every day. Right now, Frisco is getting 4 pounds of beet pulp, 8 pounds of alfalfa pellets, and 4 pounds of hay. That costs around $5.50 a day or $165 a month, which is $2,000 a year. For a horse that can't eat any forage, a complete senior feed costs around 60 cents a pound, so $7.20 a day, or $216 a month, or $2,600 a year. That is for a 800-pound horse. I see a lot of very skinny old horses at auctions, and a lot of times it's just because it is extremely expensive to feed them properly. You could have hay like this out in front of an old horse all day long and they are just not able to eat it. Which really is what happened to Nigel when I got him. He had access to food, he just was not able to process it. It looks like he does not like the new chopped hay either. Some horse people turn up their noses at the cost of proper dental care, but in the long run, it makes a huge difference. Frisco Bill is turning 29 years old this year, and he still has enough teeth that he can still eat a good amount of hay every day. These boys with all of their teeth cost about $460 a year just for their hay. So compared to a senior horse on an all complete feed diet, that's a savings of $2,000. I think if my alfalfa was maybe a first cutting instead of second, the hay chopper might have worked a little bit better. I'll still play around with it a little bit and see what I can come up with. With the crazy windstorm we were having, I really couldn't get very much done outside. I cleaned all the stalls and then fed the horses their dinner. It looks like Huckleberry has been digging in some gopher holes while I wasn't paying attention.
What have you been doing? Hey, let me see you.
He tried to play it cool, but the evidence is all over his little snoot. Even though I did shed out all of the horses the other day, they still look pretty woolly to me. It's gonna take a few more times until they're finally slicked down for the summer. I'd say the hay chopper was a good idea in theory, but for me, it is just probably not gonna work right now. Nigel and Frisco really do love their special old man meals. Even coming out of winter, they look really good on it. So for now, this is what they're gonna get. Thank you guys so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.